people love to buy, but they hate to be sold. People love to buy, they hate to be sold. So if they feel like they're being sold by you, that's going to cause some hesitation.
Typically the way these conversations start is, we go over a little bit of a theme, right? We want to follow a theme, but give everyone a little bit of background about who you are and what you've been able to accomplish. So, uh, biggest thing for today, guys, is that we are going to be going over, so just to give everyone a little bit of background, Ryan Koski has personally issue paid over $500,000 in production in a year, three separate times, so 3 years, and over $400,000 one of those years as well. And you average about $43,000 per month in issue paid premium off your own pen.
Hmm.
You're still writing business?
Yeah, yeah.
Still writing
I
business?
dial like an hour a day. I do like 10K a week.
Insane. Still, that's still crazy. Well, that's crazy. An hour a day, 10.
Sorry, I said a week. I meant a month. My
Okay.
bad. Right now,
I was
I'm,
gonna say,
but
I was
my
gonna
bad. I
say,
did
brother.
say a week. I meant a month.
Yeah, I was gonna say we need to sell that course. We need to put that in the
That would
course
be
and sell it
insane.
somehow. But regardless, you obviously successfully, evolved from a producer to a business builder, right? Which is why you're obviously only dialing for an hour a day now. But you've obviously won on both ends, right? The personal production and leadership side. And you lead an organization that is generating approximately $15 million in production this year, making you one of the few leaders with credibility in both sales and scale. Did I nail it on the head or what?
Yeah, yeah. Sounds
Cool.
about right. Hopefully, we don't
Cool.
disappoint. But
Hey, man. We'll get right into it. The theme for today, different versions of Ryan Koski, guys. This is what we're going to be going over, right? The different types of income levels within this business, what it's going to, we always talk about like the kind of person you have to become to be able to attain the kind of income or the production, the habits, all those different things. We talk about it all the time, but it's going to be a unique sort of conversation to be had from someone who's performed at such a high level and has been through most of the levels of production within this industry. So we're going to be talking about your sales strategy, mindset, leadership, and how it evolved at every stage of growth. Now, Ryan, question I want to start with is, looking back, what was the biggest difference between the Ryan who was struggling and the Ryan who eventually started, winning? And how would you define that, I guess?
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. So just so you guys know, like I came into the industry 6 years ago in 2021. A good month net profit for me before would have been like $3,000, right? Like that would have been like a great month for me. So coming in, I felt like okay, I don't have any special innate talent or ability over anyone else. Like if I work extra hard, I feel like I can make decent money, at least half of what these guys are telling me I could make, right? And so I issue paid a little over 18,000 my first month, and I net profit that month was about somewhere around like 12,000. So it was a pretty groundbreaking month for me, right? But the next 3 months, that first month I was working really hard. We were in person, Ion. So what I was doing is I would drive to people's homes. I know today, I'm sure you guys are all virtual. Today, like everyone's virtual. It's crazy. But I would drive to people's homes for actual appointments. And if one person didn't answer, I would knock on the neighbors' doors and I would get some sales like that. Or I would route out leads that hadn't answered the phone and I would just go like knock on their doors. I would hold the piece of paper. I'd be like, hey, yo, you filled this out for the life insurance? Like, all right, they sent me out to take care of it. And I would grab the door. I'd take like a half a step in and be like, you want my shoes on or off? And they would let me in the house, right? And so I was doing stuff like that constantly, or I was like dialing from my car, right? I call it the mobile command center, right? Like I'd get in my back seat where I was a little more comfortable, and I would just dial from the back of my car when I was like in between appointments. So I was doing all this extra activity. My goal was to always like give 4 extra presentations a week on like extra activity at the time. Because if I could do 4 extra presentations a week, my closing rate was 50%. I could close an extra 2 to 3 grand a week, which 8 to 10 grand a month net profit in my bank account was like, all right, cool, if I can do that. So that's how I was thinking when I got started. Well, the first month we did it, we crushed it, we did good. The next couple months I kind of lost sight of that, right? Like if it was 11 a.m. was my first appointment, well, I wouldn't get up. I wouldn't leave the house till I had to, whatever. And if I didn't have appointments in the afternoon, I would go home, make some tacos, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like I'd be chilling. And so I remember at the end of like month 5, I had like no money. I had lead debt. I had a couple chargebacks. I didn't get paid for like 28 days straight. Where I was like, bro, I gotta lock back in. I was like, I gotta take this seriously. I was like, for whatever reason, I expected to work 10 hours a week and make 8, 10 grand a week, but that was crazy. Like I worked 10 hours a week before and like I didn't make that. I don't know why I would expect that here. Where I worked 40 hours a week and I didn't make anything close to that before. So I kind of locked back in, and once I like locked back in and got some confidence, that's kind of I feel like what propelled me, just like that consistency of always working crazy hard, like harder than anybody else was. Because if you're doing that, if you're giving yourself more at bats, the person with more at bats wins. Like whoever gives the most presentations is always going to win. Like I can guarantee you, if we look at the leaderboard and we look at the top versus the bottom, the guys at the top gave infinitely more presentations than the guys at the bottom. And probably the number one guy, probably gave the most presentations or gives the most on average, right? So just giving yourself the most at bats, that's probably the one thing that I would want to go back and focus on is like, don't pay attention to the results. Like give yourself a ton of at bats and it'll work out.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And you know what I've taken away from like what you just explained, man, is like you early on were able to get an understanding of like one of the it's not really that hard to understand, but I feel like a lot of people neglect it. Maybe you can attest to this as well, which is like the numbers and the activity, like the KPI stuff, but more important, like how you got paid here.
Yeah.
You learn that very quickly. Where a lot of agents coming in think that like, oh, I wrote this, I submitted this deal, yay, celebration time. I'm going to dinner, and I haven't even the check hasn't even hit my bank account.
Mm.
You know, or they'll look at these reports and like think that, oh yes, like that's how much I'm getting paid, but it's not. But you knew that early on, so like I appreciate you touching on that because I'm gonna encourage everyone who's listening right now. If you don't know how we get paid here, now would be a good time to really get an understanding of like what the difference between submitted business to issue paid business is, right? He's talking about net ROI, right? Net income, right? Your money that's left over after you spent money on leads. Because you can spend 10 grand on leads, but if you've only made $10,000, obviously it doesn't really matter. You just work for free,
Yeah.
right? So profitability is everything, man. But that's unique, man. So obviously, you went through your fair share of ups and downs. I think anyone, and that was just on a small scale. I'm sure that you got punched in the face many
Yeah.
different times at many different levels, right? You've had to recreate yourself, right? And again, moving on to the next thing, it's like you've issue paid 500,000 on numerous occasions. First year, how much did you issue pay?
My first full year, I did a little over 300,000 issued.
That's nuts, dude. How much did you deposit? Like, how much did you take home that year? Do you know?
That year I spent a lot on leads. I spent like 100 on leads. I probably took home I probably took home like just over 6 figures that year.
Pretty crazy still, dude. You've been working. Well, how old are you right now, if you don't mind me asking?
28.
And what? So you got in 6 years. You were 22 when you got
Yeah.
in.
Yep,
Cool.
yep.
Now, jumping from that 300,000 to 500,000 level, we also you came in at a time when things were all door to door, and then
Yeah.
things transitioned to like more e-apps. It was much easier to close, things like that. What do you find to be like the difference, like in those in the maybe like the habits that it took, or maybe process, or was it just lead spend? I mean, it might just be as simple as just lead spend, honestly.
Yeah, it's actually funny because like at the time everybody was in person. Nobody was virtual. And everybody was saying, dude, if you go virtual, like you have to spend double the amount on leads, your show rate's gonna drop, your closing rate's gonna drop. And I remember I was at a spot where I would do travel trips. If any of you guys don't know what this means, I don't know if there's any OGs. Drop something in the chat if you're with me. You know what a travel trip is. You ever ran a travel trip? Drop something in the chat, or am I the only one? I promise I'm not old. I'm only 28. Um, but so we would do these travel trips where I would buy leads in another state and I would save them up for like 2 or 3 weeks. I would book a bunch of appointments over the course of 2 or 3 days, and I would fly out there, get a hotel, get a rental car, and run all the appointments out there all at one time. Well, I remember and I would do this 3, 4 times a month, at least once a week. I would do that. Well, I remember I had one time where I was actually in this office, although at the time it didn't look like this. It was just like white, plain drywall. There was nothing here. It probably looked like an insane asylum. But I remember I didn't have the money to go on a travel trip. Like I had appointments booked. I didn't have the money to, I was just kind of hoping I'd get a deposit or something. I didn't have money to go get a flight or a car or anything like that. I didn't have money to get gas. And I was like, well, damn, I guess I guess I gotta just figure something else out. And at the time, everyone was like, no, don't do virtual, don't do virtual, don't do virtual. I was like, dude, it cannot be that hard. So I set up my little tablet. I got everybody on Zoom. I remember I wrote 7,000 that first weekend in 2 days. I wrote 7,000 that first weekend on Zoom. I was like, well, that's crazy. So I tried it the next weekend instead of going out. I did the same thing. I just ran them virtually. I wrote like 4,000 and I was like, okay, over the course of 4 run days, like I wrote 11,000. Like I know this is duplicatable and replicatable. My net profit actually went up a good bit because my closing rate actually went up for whatever reason. I think it's because I had to hammer home my sales process better. Like I had to actually get better at my sales process and what I was doing. Because when I was in person, I think you can get lazy, you know what I'm saying, with some things, but virtual, like you really got to be on top of it. My closing rate went up, profit went up because I wasn't taking money to do travel trips and leads weren't sitting for 3 weeks to call them and everything. So, and then shortly after that, like within the next year, like now pretty much the entire industry, I'm not saying I'm like the first guy, there was other guys, inside of like our IMO, like I was kind of the first one that really kind of started doing virtual and nobody's really looked back. But, what to answer your question though, like every 6 months, I feel like I've had to like I just call it killing the old guy, right? Like it's scriptural. The scriptures call it dying to self. Like I die to myself daily. And so I used to feel like my first probably year and a half, I didn't have this figured out. I felt like every like quarter or every 6 months, I would just get in this funk and I'd be like, dude, what am I doing? I'm not making as much money as I want. I don't feel motivated. I have all these problems. I can't seem to figure them out. And I used to look at that as a problem. And somebody taught me something once that like you don't know if something needs to be fixed unless it's broken. So when something breaks, don't freak out. Now you have a direction, you have something you can go and achieve and accomplish. You know what to fix. And so that clicked for me. I was like, okay, cool. Like now I know what to fix. And so now I really look at it as about every 6 months, dude, I kill the old Ryan. And I'm like, bro, I got to reinvent myself. I've got to come back better, stronger. Like this industry is changing every day. There's newer, sharper people, more talented with more money, more resources, better tech, know how to use AI. That there's all these people coming in that are so much better than myself. If I don't kill the old dude, I will not survive. And
Yep.
that's true every single day. I mean, that's just life in general, whether or not you're doing insurance, like that's true in general. But like you cannot be satisfied being the person that you were yesterday because let me tell you something, if like the Neanderthals or the cavemen back in the day, if they didn't change, they didn't evolve and adapt, bro, they were cooked. They're
Mhm.
cooked. That you know what I'm saying? Like you've got to grow and you've got to change. And some people are scared of growth and change, and
Mhm.
you can't be because that's the only thing that's going to keep you in the game. If you stay the same, you are not going to be in the game a couple years from now. Like I can promise you that.
No doubt. No doubt, dude. I love that you touched on that because, like, you know, there's so many like people who have been in this industry too. Like a lot of the OGs too. Like talk about the OGs. God, the OGs paved the way for us in this industry. But like, I mean, the big thing too, not to take a dump, but like the common mistake that the OGs make is that they think that the new cats coming in the business, younger
Yeah.
kids coming in, popping off. Yeah, a lot of them, some people aren't doing things the right way, but even the ones that are doing things the right way, the first thing is like point the finger. Oh yeah, like oh they're just they got a handout or something. Not thinking like oh these people just developed. Right, the
Yeah.
OGs are just like so stuck. Oh, I've been doing this for so long, so I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And not like oh let me keep up with the trend. Let me
Mhm.
humble myself and learn from someone who's able to where maybe it took an OG maybe God knows a decade to accomplish what someone it took for them to do in like 2 3 years. Right,
Yeah.
and that's a humbling thing for a lot of people, dude. So I'm glad that you know you're touching on that and you're bringing that up because, dude, that is required in this business and honestly in any business. Like, absolutely have to continuously audit yourself. Like, it has to be done.
Yeah. Yep.
Otherwise, you'll get blinded by your own ego and the trends that are being constantly created within this industry or any industry will honestly just swallow the individual whole. Right? It's the
Yeah.
truth. I love that also that you said virtual made you profitable. This agency was the first one of the first virtual agencies as our IMO too. So it's pretty crazy how that works.
Nice.
But
Nice.
man, it's a real thing, man. It's a beautiful thing too, because like we're not landlocked. I was just talking to some kids in the office,
Yeah.
and they had came to us from a different organization, and they were just saying how cool it is. Like they're looking at flights now to go to Cal. They just joined us like a month ago.
Yeah.
The contracts haven't even moved. It's insane.
Yeah.
But they're already looking at flights to go to California and go like, dude, like I asked them like, what the hell are you doing? You didn't even made your first deal yet. And he's like, dude, I'm gonna go to California and I'm gonna take my fucking laptop and I'm gonna go and surf. I'm like, bro, do you know even know how to surf? He's like, yeah. But he's like, I can do this wherever I want. So it's pretty sick, bro. It is cool that, you know, virtual is honestly, some people say it's harder, some people say it's easier, but either way, I mean, it is more profitable, right? Because you don't have to pay for
Yeah.
stuff.
Everything's harder, everything's easier, right?
Yeah,
Literally, there's pros and cons to literally everything. You're gonna figure it out or you're not. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like everything's harder, everything's easier.
bare truth, bare truth. Um, Now, another thing too, like I want to ask you this, like, what do you find like in your sort of travels, in your experience, right, being in the industry for 6 years, did you work in any other industry before insurance?
I sold lawn care door to door for a minute. I did some business to business sales as well. So I sold lawn care door to door for like 3 years. And
Where are
then
you from? Like, where do you stay at currently?
I'm right outside of Chicago in Indiana.
No way, you're from Chicago, huh?
Yeah, I
Where?
mean
What city?
I'm technically I'm from Iowa. I'm like
Right,
45 minutes from Chicago. So
like Dubuque area?
Cedar Rapids in Iowa, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, cool, dude. That's what's up. Good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a few people from Illinois as well, including myself. But regardless, so what do you find that elite salespeople understand that average salespeople completely miss?
I mean, I think that there's a lot of things. I think the biggest thing, and this is something that I really struggled with, the biggest thing I think is elite salespeople understand that I'm not selling anyone. As long as you're selling a valuable product that people need, like if as long as you have a valid solution for somebody's problem, it's not my job to sell anything. And a lot of new people coming in think, dude, I'm the sales guy, like I got to convince people to get it. And you'll hear all the time, somebody's a yapper, you know what I'm saying? They talk all the time, and people, you'd be great at sales. No, brother, that dude's going to be terrible at sales because he's going to be talking the whole time trying to convince the client that they need something. So, what you have to understand is like our job, people love to buy, but they hate to be sold. People love to buy, they hate to be sold. So, if they feel like they're being sold by you, that's going to cause some hesitation. That's going to cause them to seize up and not want to give their account number or their social or whatever it is. So, you've got to understand if people love to buy, how do I lead them along the process of buying? Number one, ask yourself, what are you selling? Is it a product worth buying? Are you solving a legitimate problem for people? We most certainly are, right? This is probably, in my opinion, this is the most meaningful, impactful, valuable thing we could sell on multiple different levels to anybody. Everybody needs this twice. Death and taxes are the only two things that are guaranteed. Life insurance helps with both of those things, right? So we're hitting on all that. So your job is to help people buy. So what oftentimes what salespeople do is we tell people things like, "Hey, I am. This is going to help you pay off the home for your family when you die, or it's going to help replace your income for your family when you die, right?" And we'll state that to people. But what elite salespeople do is elite salespeople they introduce their concepts and ideas via questions that get you to sell yourself on the idea before I ever even talk about it. So, like, hey, Ion, let me ask you, how's your family going to pay the bills? If you passed away, being that you're the only income.
Mhm.
Okay, oh, well, they wouldn't be able to, or I don't know, my wife works part-time. She might be okay. Gotcha. Do you think she's going to be able to make up for your 8 grand of income a month? Okay, well, how would you feel? Like, emotionally, how would you feel knowing if you passed away today that that's the kind of spot you left her in? And then, okay, like if we could solve that problem, and of course it makes sense for you financially, would that kind of help? They'd be like, well, yeah, it definitely would, right? But where what you're doing is you're asking questions, and instead of saying, hey, Ion, this is the best thing for you, you need to do XYZ, I'm asking some questions and I'm introducing those concepts, and you're the one selling yourself on them. And oftentimes what we do, I remember I was door to door selling lawn care, and there was this weed, it's a clover, everybody knows what it is. This guy's lawn had clover all over it. So I go up there, I knock on the door. I'm like, hey, yo, bro, like you got all this clover. Let me take care of it for you. We're gonna do X, Y, Z, use this treatment, whatever, get rid of the clover. I spent like 15 minutes telling him how great I was gonna do getting rid of this clover in his yard. And then, I give him the options. I was like, hey, do you want to prepay or, do you want to just do the monthly thing? And he goes, well, I actually like the clover. He's like, I planted it here because it does these five things, good things for the lawn. So I don't want to get rid of it. Have a good day though. And I was like, dang it, bro. But I never took a second to listen and ask questions and understand what he wanted and what he needed. And if you're talking the whole time, you don't know your clients.
Mhm.
Um, you have to understand where people are at and where they want to go. So like if you're trying to sell me something and you're trying to take me to a destination, whatever, you're trying to sell me something, you need to know, I need to be confident that you know two things. I need to be confident that you know where I'm at right now and where I want to go. If I feel like you don't know where I'm at, how am I supposed to trust you to take me where I want to go, right? But if you don't know where I want to go, how am I supposed to trust you to take me there? So half of the battle is asking good enough questions to understand, and then the other half is letting the client know that, hey, I understand, I see where you're at. This is the situation. You'd like to get XYZ achieved, if it makes sense financially. And when they feel like Ion, he knows where I'm at, he knows the problem I have, he knows the problem I need to solve, where I would like to be. They're going to be a lot more likely to trust you to take them there. But sometimes we just spend so much time talking and spitting facts and features and death benefit, cash value, cash back, blah, 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 blah. Those are, I promise you, I swear to God, people do not care about the death benefit.
Yeah, yeah.
They don't care about the cash value. They don't care about the policy being permanent. They don't care about anything. The only thing they care about is the problem that they have and whether or not your solution is going to solve it. Is it
Mhm.
going to solve it or not? Right? And what are they going to get because of the cash value or because of the death benefit? Like, what is it that's actually going to apply to them? How is their life going to be better? How are their loved ones' lives going to be better because of that? And if we just spend the whole time talking, brother, we don't know anything, if that makes sense. I know it was kind of probably a long answer to your question, but
No, 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 absolutely. That's amazing, amazing answer. And the big takeaways from that is like question-based objection handling, right? A lot of the rookies, you know, I find that like there's a difference between, and I want to ask you this actually, follow-up question. Would you rather handle an objection or avoid an objection? And how do you define the two? How do you define handling an objection? How do you define avoiding an objection? And which one do you favor?
yeah, yeah. I mean, avoiding objections is always it is okay. And like the first 90 seconds of the call, avoiding objections is fantastic. That's like a really nuanced topic because to answer your question, no, I'm not trying to avoid objections. I want to draw objections out, right? Because I want to know what you think. I want to know what you think you have that will do what I'm trying to sell you would do. So I know what to say, how to handle it. And you're right, a lot of new salespeople, they don't want to get objections because they're like, oh, but if he says, he already has life insurance, then he won't want to buy from me. It's like, yeah, but if you didn't know he already has life insurance, you're not gonna be able to sell him anyway. So you got to get that objection out so you can air that out and deal with it. And if the great thing is, Ion, if you bring an objection up, if you say, hey, Ion, how much life insurance do you have as the agent? You can, if you're the one who brings it up, you can be educational and it can help build trust and credibility. But if I wait till you bring that objection up, well, now it's an objection. We're on opposite sides and we're kind of fighting against each other. And if you're ever on opposite sides of the client, you're arguing, you've already lost. So you've got to make sure anything, I don't know if you guys know Murphy's Law, right? Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And that's especially true in your side of your sales process. So what I try to do is I try to make sure I account for literally every single possible thing that could go wrong, every potential objection that could be out there. My whole sales process is built to handle those preemptively, draw them out preemptively, so that way you don't bring them up. So I can be educational and build credibility. There is some validity though, too. You don't want to like plant objections in someone's mind. So for instance, if someone has like, let's say I'm selling a mortgage protection lead, right? And they have life insurance. Sometimes what we do is we'll say, hey, you don't want to use the life insurance for mortgage protection because of XYZ. And they didn't say that, right? Well, what I'm doing is maybe you weren't already thinking that. So I'm kind of planting the seed of an objection. And now you're thinking, oh, well, I could maybe use, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. I should see what that is. Versus if you don't ever say that and you just leave them separate and you just talk about how this is going to do stuff that his life insurance isn't going to do, well then they don't kind of connect those dots. So there is some validity to like not planting the seeds of an objection, although avoiding an objection is not a valid sales tactic in my opinion. I definitely want to get objections out if that makes sense.
No, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, again, question-based objection handling. So I know you talked about, you know, some things like in the first 90 seconds, right? Let's talk about like intro is obviously the hardest part. Going back to what we
Yeah.
talked about originally, right? You said the guy who gets the most up bat ups, what do you call it? Up bats?
At bats,
At bat,
presentations,
at
whatever you
bat,
want to call
right?
them.
Prezos. So the person who gets the most prezos is typically the top of the leaderboard.
Hmm.
Now, what we need to touch on is like getting to the prezo in the first place.
Yeah.
And we know the intro, unless you disagree, I don't know. Most people have not disagreed yet. Maybe you have a different take. Honestly, the intro is the hardest part of this of any sort of conversation you ever have with the lead. Would you agree or no?
Um, it kind of depends on the lead. You know what I'm saying? There's so many different types of leads. What kind of lead are we talking about? But in general, most people are working age leads, so I would agree. Yeah, that the
Yes, intro.
intros, getting into a presentation is the difficult part.
Yes, yes. So let's talk about that. Biggest mistakes agents make in the first 60 seconds of the conversation with a prospect.
Yeah, first of all, saying Ion, hello, hello, Alex. Is this Grigor? Like that is killing it, right? Like I don't. Whenever you say hi, is this Ion? I don't know if you listen. If y'all listen to your call recordings. You will hear 6 or 7 out of 10 people will. You'll be met with immediate resistance. Yeah, yeah. Who is this? Yeah. What do you need? Yeah. Why are you calling? And what that signifies is that when you're calling them, you don't know that you're calling the right person. So there's some uncertainty there. And anytime the client feels like you're uncertain, they're going to go in for the kill. They're going to try to get you off the phone. So we got to exude ultimate confidence and certainty. So, hey, Ion, this is Ryan. I'm getting back with you about the coverage that you're looking into about, whatever it is, that whatever it is that your script says. So, don't ask, is it the right person? If it's a gentleman's name on the lead form and a female answers the phone, which sometimes nowadays is a little hard to tell, but if you think that's the case, right? Female answers the phone, assume it's the spouse. Hey, this is Ryan. I'm getting back with you and Ion about XYZ because you cannot the problem is what we do is we create resistance on our own. And the goal until you get into the financial inventory, right, or the needs analysis, whatever you guys call it, the goal is to have as little resistance as possible, right? We don't want any resistance inside of our sales process. So you got to be auditing, where do I get resistance? Can I eliminate it? If I can't eliminate it, do I need to say that? And if I need to say it, then I got to figure out how to eliminate the most resistance possible there. So that's one of them. The second thing, Ion, is yes or no questions. Yes or no questions will destroy your sales process. I don't know about you guys. I feel like if I had all the available information about every single client I ever talked to, that I would sell everybody. I wouldn't miss a single thing, right? Because of the product that we're selling, it's so useful. If I had all the available information, I would sell everybody. If you ask 100 yes or no questions, the odds you get 100 yes or no answers are pretty freaking high, right? Versus if you ask 100 open-ended questions, so instead of, hey, Ion, are you 25. Instead, if I say, hey, Ion, what year were you born? Or how old are you? And it's an open-ended question. Oh, I'm 35, but my birthday's next month. I got more information. So if I ask 100 open-ended questions, I'm going to have so much more information about Ion. So what happens, and the other negative side of that is, I don't know if you guys have ever felt like, oh, I talk to these people, but they give me terrible answers. There's just one word answers the whole time. They don't give me anything. 60% of the time, that's because you're training them to do that. Because you're asking 10 yes or no questions in a row. They're used to saying yes or no, and then they're just doing what you taught them to do at the beginning of the call. So, but if you practice open-ended questions and giving them ample opportunity to share information with you, well, then guess what the standard is going to be? Sharing information with you. If you have all the information, the more information you have, guys, the more likely you are to be able to close them. So those open-ended questions are huge in the beginning of the call. I listen to probably a dozen hours of sales calls a week from my team and sometimes from other people. And I would say the biggest reason that a lot of newer agents don't get into more presentations is those yes or no's. They'll ask like 3 or 4 yes or no questions in a row. Hey, are you still at this address? Are you 35? Is it your name on the home or loan? And then by that time, the client's like, yes, yes, yes. And it's just a dead, you know what I'm saying? It's like a dead process and it feels terrible, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. You're hitting this on the head. And big thing too, Ryan, is like I try to encourage the agents to big thing to try to encourage agents to is like sound as unique as possible, right? Because we're also consumers as well, right? I mean, I can imagine your phone's probably getting blown up as well, similar to mine, right? By
Yeah.
God, sometimes. Maybe someone from overseas, you know?
Yeah.
And you see in which us being consumers, we know we respond well to, we know we don't respond well to. I mean, have you ever like had someone call your phone and have a fire intro? Like someone's trying to sell you something, and then you sit there and just listen because you're obviously we're in the sales world, right?
Yeah.
You've done that before, and then you ever give them like feedback or anything like that after?
And over the phone, I've never had anyone give me a fire intro. If someone knocks on my door, though, like I had a dude the other day, I gave him a couple tips. Yeah, so I was, but
Fire.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a beautiful thing, man. Trying to sound as unique as possible, saying things that like other agents would never say to keep people on the phone, especially with age leads, man. That is like
yeah.
crucial, right? You cannot sound like everybody else. Very important. Now, Ryan, I do want to transition a little bit more into like, what the key objective of this conversation was more so about like the different stages too, right? Someone who's doing 15,000 a month issue paid right now consistently, but has been stuck there for years, what's probably holding them back, would you say?
I mean, if they've been stuck there for years, it's lead spend or belief. It's one of those two things, right? They either just aren't spending enough, and if they have it stuck there for years and they're spending enough to write more, then they probably wouldn't be in the game. So it's probably lead spend. It's also belief, though. Like what you like, yeah, there's all kinds of studies coming out nowadays about neuroplasticity and how what you tell yourself, what you believe, how you speak to yourself literally can rewire your brain. And there's actually some research and data that suggests that it can change things around you too, right? Where it can change circumstances, it can change other people, and it's purely about your belief levels, right? Like if you're above a 40% closing rate, let me say that. So if you close at least 40% of the presentations you give, it's all about your belief and are the numbers in your favor? Do you have enough opportunities? If you're at like a 25% closing rate, work on the closing rate, get a lot better at closing. 40% and above, that's predictable. That's where I would say, okay, this dude's like, I know I can engineer and I know exactly how much money he'll make if all the numbers are correct. So I would say it's one of those two things. It's either belief or it's lead spend. Lead spend is pretty simple. If you want me to go into that, we can, but like spend more on leads, right? You're not going to get more than like a 5 to 8x ROI if you're really, really good. So if you're issue paying 15K and you're spending 3K a week and asking yourself, why can't I write more? Stop crying, spend more money on leads. Your life will get a lot easier. I always tried to make it a habit to spend too much on leads so I didn't have to deal with the BS. I don't want to have to fight little old Grandma Jean, 83-year-old ladies on the phone for $29 a month so she can give me her debit card and I can get paid $17 a month for the next 12 months, right? Like, I don't want to have to fight with that. I want to hang up on that lady or throw that to an agent and go find me a whale, right? Like, I want to have enough leads that I'm not sitting there freaking out about every single person. And to talk about the belief thing, a lot of people will ask, like, hey, how do I get confidence? How do I believe in myself? How do I, it's like, bro, like, I can't tell you how to do that. I can't. The reality is, you have to prove to yourself that you're worthy of believing in.
Hmm.
Like you have to. Nobody can instill a belief inside of you. Now, I can give you a couple tactics to help you get down that road. But the reality is, you have to prove to yourself that you're worthy of your own confidence. And where I think a lot of people go wrong, Ion, is what we don't realize is a lot of us, we teach ourselves we're losers and failures every day because we set an alarm. We say we're going to get up and work out at a certain time, and we sleep in and we don't work out. And we say we're going to eat good, and then we don't, and we say we're going to dial by a certain time or give a certain amount of presentations. And what we're doing is we're failing multiple times a day. And you're teaching yourself Ryan's a failure. Ryan can't overcome. Ryan doesn't do what he says he will. And that's what you're teaching yourself. And so you believe that about yourself. So if you're struggling with your self belief, A, what promises are you making? Don't make promises you can't keep. I'm not telling you, this is not like a cop out of like, hey, promise easy things. Oh, I'm gonna be dialing by noon, I bro. Like, don't do that, right? But don't say I'm gonna dial by 5 a.m. and dial until 11 p.m. every single night. Like, don't be crazy, right? But when you say you're going to do something, you owe it to yourself, nobody else. Don't do it for anybody else. Don't care about what anybody else thinks about you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect you. You have to come through for yourself. That's how you start to build the confidence. It comes in those small wins. And bro, you know how like in investing there's a compounding interest effect, right? Where over time you start getting more and more and more. When you believe in yourself and you have confidence, bro, that thing starts to
Yeah,
snowball. It
yeah,
starts to compound and it starts to feel like I could do anything I want, anytime I want, because I know all these things that I've done. Like I genuinely feel, and I remember I had a weekend I on where I lost my phone. That was like $1,000. I got in a car accident and I had bad car insurance, so that was like $3,500 that I had to pay. And at the time, I had a weird business thing. I had this agent whose leads I was paying for, and he was going to pay me back, and he told me that weekend he wasn't going to pay me back. So that was 7,000, right? So 7,000 plus 3,500 plus 1,000. So all in all, 14,500 ish that hit me in that one weekend. This was all in the same day, within like 3 hours that hit me all at the same time. Like, bro, that sucks. And I thought about it for like 2 seconds and I was like, wait, let me pull out my calculator. I was like, I make $27.25 per dial. So if I want to make that 14,500 divided by 27.25, I need to make 532 dials. If I do that 2 days, Monday, Tuesday, if I do 270 dials a day, I'll be good. I'll have it all paid back by Wednesday. And guess what I did? I made $270 a day and I had it all paid back by Wednesday. And if I don't have years of building belief and confidence, and at the time I think I was like a year and a half in, so I didn't have that long. But if I don't believe in myself and have confidence, if I don't know my numbers, and you know what I'm saying, like I don't know if I show up and do X, Y, Z, I know I will get this result. Well, then I'm not going to have the confidence to do that, and that's kind of what you have to build in yourself over time, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely, dude. Your own numbers gave you confidence.
Yeah,
Your own successes gave you confidence. You built up, like David Goggins talks about, the cookie jar. You
yeah,
built up that cookie jar for yourself, and you were able to, reach into it in a time of despair. And that's like the same thing as like a new agent coming in, like closing their first deal, dude. That first deal will carry. I've watched the first deal carry someone for like 3 months, bro, of not closing.
yeah,
Like that
yeah,
first deal will give someone fire, but you got
yeah.
to get on the next one. So that's crazy. Now, another thing too, this is kind of this is again this is a controversial sort of question. A lot of people here, leaders specifically, want to pay attention to this one because I think. Wait, let me ask you this first. Do you believe that every top producer can be a leader?
No,
Cool.
absolutely
All
not.
right.
You know.
Cool. 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 Now, someone who's making
Hold
$40,000
on,
a
wait. Let me rework that statement.
uh-huh.
Can every top producer be a leader? In theory, yes,
Yes.
right? Can they work on themselves? Yes, but no, they're probably not
Eventually.
built-in great leaders, you know?
Yes. Forgive me. You're very on top of the words. I have to be more conscious of the words that I'm using. Yes. Let me rephrase this. So, uh, someone who is making $40,000 a month personally, but is having a hard time building a team,
Hmm.
or is let's just say that having a hard time building a team and is not allowing themselves to be able to build a team. What's missing there, would you say?
I mean, it kind of depends. What I would say is you got to be introspective at that point, right? There's certain times where you got to like look at it with a microscope, right? Look at your business with a microscope and really inspect it. But what I would say is there's probably some things that made you really, really successful at selling personally. And you're either not doing those things inside of the agency building, right? So maybe you don't inspect your numbers, you don't know what your cost per agent is, or you don't have a process, a training system process. You don't, maybe like, okay, when I sell, I have this process that I do every time. Maybe you don't have that for agents. Everybody kind of does their own thing. So it's either that you're not doing some of those things inside of your agency building, or the things that make you really, really good at selling, being really upfront, to the point, not wasting any time, not being emotional. Those might be the things that are holding you back from building an agency. So you might have to learn how to develop that side of yourself and ultimately get some feedback from people in your agency. Dude, I ask agents all the time, ones who have failed and ones who have done well and ones who aren't doing well, hey, what happened? What could be better? What do you feel like I could have done more? What would have been more helpful? What are the top three things you struggled with coming out of the new agent training course? That you didn't understand, and how can I implement something that is going to make that a smoother transition from new agent to actually making money. And you just have to be introspective, but it just kind of depends on who you are. I think for the most part, unless you just have an insane ego, for the most part, if you just look at it objectively for like an hour, you think about it, it'll be pretty apparent to you where you're falling off. So just figure out, where do people fall off? Do I have a hard time getting people licensed, or do people get licensed and never write? Or do people write their first policy and they don't stick? Or do they write 20K in a month and then they fall off after 6 months? And then you kind of figure out what it is that you need to do, at which step of the process your people are falling off.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Um, Now, you produced for how long before you started building?
Probably like a year and a half before I
Okay.
started trying to build, yeah.
At what point did you realize writing more business wasn't the answer?
Um, I don't think I probably after like 3 years.
Okay.
Probably after like 3 years.
Okay. Okay. And now your team is obviously projected to do about 15 million. I mean, they are going to do 15 million
Yeah.
this year. What system standards, principles would you say made that possible?
I think that
And how many
one
writing
of the
agents do you have, if you don't mind me asking?
we have 25 active like writing agents every month.
Huh?
Yeah, 20.
25, 15 million between 25 agents?
Yeah, we do a lot of business. Well, that's life and health as well. So we do a good bit of private health
Oh,
as
okay,
well. And
okay.
then we have a pretty high issue paid number per agent anyway, like on just on the life side.
You said 25 agents. How many on the, if you don't mind me asking, on the life side, how much you guys doing in life this year?
Life side, we've been averaging like 400 a month issued.
What?
So, yeah.
25 people? That's
Yeah, we've
insane.
been averaging like
So
400.
that's like 5 million
Yeah, we
between
should do
25?
hopefully we do a lot more than 5 million. Hopefully we do like 7 or 8 this year. We
7
we
million
should,
between
yeah.
25 people is nuts. What are you
Hopefully
guys,
we grow. But
what are you guys calling, huh?
we're calling fresh digital. We do a lot of fresh digital, a lot of our, and I'll share everything with you guys, bro. I'm not trying to hide anything, but we do a lot of fresh digital leads. That's what most of our team does with like at cost leads or like strong point. And then we do some of our guys do health insurance, like they do a lot of health insurance, like data leads, and then they cross sell to life. Those are the two main things we do.
Dude, 7 million between 25 agents on life is the average agent's issue paying $280,000 in business for the year.
Yeah, it should be
That's
somewhere
insane.
around that. Hopefully, we'll add more agents. You know, that's 7 million as long as we grow, right? So that's probably not on our current 25, but
That's insanity, dude. God bless you for that.
yeah.
Lean is the way to go, man. Especially in the way the
Yeah.
industry's headed. Oh my God.
Oh,
Uh,
100%.
what do you look for when identifying future leaders, and what separates leaders who last from those who burn out, would you say?
Um, what I look for in leaders is someone who can admit when they're wrong and when they've messed up, because that's something about a leader that every leader is going to have to do. You're gonna make mistakes, right? You're gonna do something the way that's not the best. And you have to be able to have the humility to say, oh man, I should have done that differently. That's the first thing that I look for. And then the second thing is like, you're not going to be a leader if you're not someone who people if you're not setting the bar incredibly high. So, I mean, your agents are going to write half of what you wrote, right? They're going to do half of what you do well and double what you do poorly. So ask yourself, what do I do well? And if my agents do half of it, is that enough? And what do I do bad? And if my agents double that, is that enough? So if your persistency isn't great, well, your agent's persistency is going to be really, really bad, right? And if your average issue paid number is 20, well, your agents are only going to issue pay 10. So you got to make sure you're setting the bar high. And then as long as, again, you're willing to admit like when you're wrong and you've made mistakes and like, you're willing to learn and grow, I think anybody can become like a solid leader. I would say those are, for me, those are a couple of things that I'm looking for.
Okay. If someone listening today wants to become the next version of themselves, not just to make more money, but genuinely like level up in life and business, what would you say they should start doing immediately?
I would say ask yourself right now, and everybody should do this. Everybody grab a pen, write down what's the one thing in your life that you are the most scared to do or to commit to right now. What is it? Write it down. Let's have a couple people who wants to share what it is for them. What's the number one thing? It could be a personal thing, could be a business thing, could be, fixing a relationship with your mom, or you know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't matter what it is. What's the number one thing you're most scared to do? Ion, go first. What is it, brother?
One thing I'm scared to do.
Yeah. What's the one thing that you're like, I don't want to do this, man? It's been in the back of your head. You've known you need to, it could be hitting the gym. I don't know what it is? Everybody has something. For me, I'll share mine. For me, it's just recruiting. I hate recruiting, and I don't want to be that guy when you see a text message from them, oh, he's gonna try to recruit me. I just don't want to be that guy, and I have this fear that if I am recruiting all the time, people are gonna look at me a certain type of way. That's what it is for me, and that's the battle I gotta fight. That's the thing I gotta conquer now. Some people put it in the
Yeah.
chat.
I'd say, okay, I respect that though. And that's why you have a lean organization too, which is respectable, to be honest. I mean, you're doing well, more than well. I'd say, I don't know, dude. I don't fear, humbly, I fear God, brother. But if we're talking about like things I'm trying to avoid right now,
We'll
I
we'll
don't
cir-
want
we'll circle back around. We'll circle
to.
back
Yeah,
around. You can throw it in the chat,
yeah,
but
yeah.
there's some good stuff in the chat. Running the marathon, look stupid, feel dumb, vulnerable, scared of losing. So what you have to do is the number one thing that you don't want to do right now, the thing you're scared of, the thing you're avoiding, whatever it is, you got to do that today. You have to, because that's the thing that's holding you back. The thing that you've been thinking about for a long time, like you got to do it. There's a few people in the chat that are saying fear of failure. Y'all, I heard this quote a little bit ago and it changed the way, I mean, I already kind of understood it,
Respect.
but it just put it so simply, winners lose more than losers ever will. Let me tell you something. Do you think I wrote $500,000 of issue pay production 3 years in a row and I didn't fail along the way? No, I can guarantee you I failed way more than anyone who didn't do that along the way. And that's the reason that I was able to do what I did. I'm not bragging on myself, but not very many people do that, right? And so if you're trying to get to the next level, what's holding you back and conquer it? For a long time, for me, I had not a big issue, but I had this issue with my parents that I didn't want to resolve. I needed to do that, right? Um, and you got to do it, whatever it is. Like you've got to kill the old dude because he can't survive. You know, he can. He's just going to be a loser today, right? But kill the old guy if you want to grow and you want to achieve more. If you can't, if you do what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always had. And for most of us, I would assume we're on this call or we're selling life insurance because we want more than we've had at this point in our lives. So if you want more, you've got to be a different person, and that means you got to kill the old dude. You can't let him hang around.
That's a powerful thing, man. What question would you ask the next leader to challenge them at the deepest level?
To challenge them on the deepest level, I'd probably ask, at what point were you the lowest you've ever been inside of this industry, and what did you have to do? Everybody is not, I think, everyone's going to go through the lows, and it's how you respond. And I think when you watch someone respond at their worst moments, like that's when you learn a lot about them. That's where whatever it is that makes you special and great, that's typically where that's going to shine. And, I like to learn from people. So,
All right, guys, drop some questions in chat. Oh, first off, everyone unmute, say thank you to Mr. Ryan Koski. Please,
thank you.
Thank
Thank
everyone
you.
you.
unmute,
Thank you, Ryan.
unmute, say thank
Thank you,
you.
Ryan.
Thank you, bro. Thank you,
Yes.
Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.